Hello, welcome to our webinar today. My name is Janie Rios. I am the CEO of eTrain360.com. We are an e-learning specialist company. I've been creating e-learning platforms and video for 25 years. My company eTrain360 was founded in 2007 with the vision to make e-learning accessible for everyone. I'm a thought leader with a proven track record for success. Our e-learning clients span from US to China to Africa. And my passion is to help companies and HR departments lower training and printing costs while creating a dynamic platform for integration throughout the internet. Like I said, we've been doing this for quite a while. And when I started 10 years ago, I was actually in Africa and realized the need to train people in a global marketplace. And so that was back when e-learning first started. So today I'm just going to go over our webinar, which is Vision, Velocity, and Value. We've seen the integration of technology happen in the last 10 years. And so I'm going to share with you some new ideas for e-learning, training, and distance learning, as well as interactions between employees, managers, customers. And that's a very important piece that we'll cover today. Some e-learning is missing that portion of it. So let's dive right in. Again, I'm Janie Rios, CEO of eTrain360. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so let's get started. So e-learning radically changed the training industry, as most of you know. In 2001, we had two major shifts take place in our industry. The internet emerged as a new computing platform, and we had a recession. These two factors together created a tremendous focus on moving training programs and materials away from instructor-led to online. As many of you probably remember, there was talk about the end of brick and mortar universities as well. We all rushed to do all the training and education online. Well, today e-learning has matured. There are many forms of online training and education now. We can implement rapid e-learning, often with PowerPoint to Flash, application simulations, business simulations, audio, video, and a whole variety of instructional interactivities. So this 14-year revolution of e-learning, it's been exciting, innovative, and transformational. But today, many corporate clients tell us that 70% or more of their corporate training is done online. Now, such a concept of that was inconceivable just 10 years ago. Now, here we are again in the middle of a whole new era. People are calling it social learning, informal learning, and collaborative learning. I call it we-learning. It shifts some focus away from traditional training and creates the need to learn new disciplines because of the new technologies and everything we have going on. Let me give you an example. Just as e-learning enabled us to stop flying people all over the place, we-learning will change the way we think about where and how people learn. So let's look at Sun Microsystems Sun Learning Exchange. This platform lets people browse and watch videos, audios, and other media from experts. Maybe not within the company, but it's experts around the technologies they're implementing. It's experts around their customers are experts, the customer testimonies. So all these mediums we're using now in e-learning. It also lets them download and subscribe to areas of interest on their cell phones. We'll get into that in a little bit, but 85% of the people now are using their cell phones and iPads and things like that for training. And it lets them receive updates and posts, responses via email. So it's connected the entire Sun system, which is a global community, into one central location, and everyone is learning from each other, everyone is contributing to the content, because we'll get into this in a bit too, but it's the culture that Sun has created to allow this to happen. And it's saving them millions of dollars a year. So that's just one example of a really forward-thinking company that is using the internet to train a global corporation. Well, just as e-learning freed us from the classroom for all our learning, we-learning is going to free us from the computer. In the past few years, as I've said, we've seen more and more collaborative learning taking place on cell phones and other mobile devices. So we have to be ready. So adding we-learning to the mix and adding the ability to collaborate to almost every other form of formal training is now needed. So let's look at this scenario. Before, when we trained, we would send an email out, we would have people come in, we would train, they would leave. Some people didn't make it because they were sick. Some people, I mean, there's all the excuses, and then you have, 200 people trained and 10 not. So, that scenario is a long time ago. Now what we do is we can create interactives before the training even begins. And that's so important because it gets people pumped up. What is this about? Why am I doing this? And so let me give you a little example. Before class, you can get people together online to discuss the objectives. It's great. It's great for feedback. It's great. What are you going to incorporate into that training that people really need? 5% of training, 100% of training comes from training in HR departments. But honestly, if you look at the people who really need the training, what do they need? Are we doing surveys before we just train them on things? There's a lot of tools now that we can use to really pinpoint the needs and areas of the training. And it might not necessarily be the manager that's training. It may be the person that's doing that specific task, and then they can talk about it and blog about it and even be a speaker. So we have to kind of use everyone in the organization. So before class, we can get some information, we can discuss objectives, we can get people geared up, maybe send them a pre-test or a pre-document. Now during a class, we collaborate with each other to share experiences from the instructor. So you can use online learning to actually collaborate with classmates, either via video or forums. But there's ways that we can interact with the instructor. It just doesn't have to be online, and then they have nobody to talk to afterwards, or help them with the quizzes and certifications. So after the class, we create a community of practice and share information about how we're applying what we learned. So important. That's that after training. What do we need? What do we miss? Let's talk about this. Was there, any other ideas around this? I mean, the options are endless when you put a training program together. It's just not training your employees. It's bringing that interactivity in. It's being a collaborative effort before, during, and after the training. So those are some really good tips, I think, that people are missing right now in the e-learning world and with corporate training. However, our research does actually show that the single biggest driver of success in today's modern L&D world is culture. No matter how well we design the program, systems, and experiences, they only stick when the company itself values a continuous focus on organizational and individual learning. It is so important. So more and more top executives now are thinking, how can I get people in this organization to more rapidly share this information, talk to our customers, and learn faster? These types of conversations lead to a discussion about the organization's learning culture, one of the biggest drivers of success in our new interactive collaborative learning programs and platforms. These are what top managers are asking, and this is how e-learning can now help. Similarly, we have to give people the support, the culture, and motivation to engage in e-learning. So ask yourself, does your organization have a culture of knowledge sharing? What does that mean? Knowledge sharing, it's from every department. If sales isn't talking to marketing, and marketing's not talking to sales, and managers aren't talking to their employees and their peers and the other departments, we have chaos. So if you can streamline that and share knowledge from each department so it's open in a knowledge base. So sales doesn't have to call marketing and find out what's going on marketing, and doesn't have to call sales to find out what they did to close. It's a whole database where people can go in and share their knowledge. So important. Another question to ask yourself about the culture: are the experts rewarded for sharing their best practices? I mean, this is a lot for technology companies, any company really. I mean, we have to reward our employees for sharing their best practices. And that can be anything from, dinners to have a career path. If you, blog this many times about this, you're going to get X and X. It's a reward system. It motivates your employees and the best of your employees to get their information out and share. More importantly, do you have incentives and career models which tell experts that we expect you to contribute to the collective knowledge of this organization? That needs to be in, put that in if you have to. A lot of our companies that we work with will put it in writing and before they take the job offer. And there's a plan. And unless you have a plan, you can't plan. So the planning stage of interactivity and e-learning and bringing your corporation together through collaborative communication efforts all starts with those employees that have the information in their heads. So we have to have a career model. We have to have some sort of incentive to have them help us and move our companies along. So another big thing, technology, of course, has played a major role in the advancement of e-learning. New technologies made e-learning in a collaborative environment possible. With the advent of laptops, cell phones, wireless Bluetooth, and more, communication with your customers, with your employees, it's changed. And the way we learn has changed. For example, podcast listeners have doubled in the last 4 years. Why is this? Well, the big contributor are cars. Automobiles now include Bluetooth as a standard in most vehicles. People are downloading podcasts on their phones and listening to them while they're in the car. Podcasts, they're simple audio files. Any company could use this as a training tool, or create a podcast show and educate consumers. Either way, it's time. It's a new era of learning. So that's what we're talking about today. Oh, and by the way, e-learning is less expensive now more than ever. Technology is cheaper, connections are stronger, internet reaches globally, and interconnectivity between systems is seamless. So that's why, that's why we're able to now put together programs. It's not near as costly. I remember when we started our e-learning company 10 years ago, it was $100,000, $200,000 to put something like this together. Well, not anymore. Really, if you plan up front and, if you look at a site map, this is who we need to communicate. This is what we need to communicate. This is how we're going to communicate. Have all this in a plan. Well, then just putting the systems together is kind of, I hate to say this, but it's the easy part. It's really the planning and getting it correct. And that's why, etrain360.com is here. So you want your e-learning venture to work with a culture, not against it. Back to that number one reason, why we have e-learning is around the velocity of an e-learning program is the culture. There are at least 3 kinds of companies. So the type of company you have, it determines the most effective path that we use for an e-learning strategy. So, for example, for top-down, task-oriented organizations, a straightforward curriculum of courses is going to be your best bet. For the democratic, people-oriented companies, Collaborative e-learning systems are the best way to go. Now, if your company is a true learning organization, you'll need a broad program of collaborative e-learning and knowledge management. But again, the technology is inexpensive. It's just that planning up front on now how are we going to deliver this. And so if you look at these different types of companies, most companies fall into these categories we have found. So, based on this, you'll kind of know, the expense rate, the planning stage, and, all of the e-learning platforms now are really built to be scalable. So if you know something in the future, you can put that as a wish list or something like that. But start out with what you need, and that will get it online a lot faster. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already there. Let's just create it online. All right. So how are companies using it today? The existence of any of the following conditions may present an opportunity to implement e-learning for you. So if you look at these, we're about to cover each one of these, but if you look at these, if you have any of these, your company really would benefit from an e-learning platform. The mobile workforce, these are salespeople, these are marketing, these are people out. Golly, I mean, you just think about all the companies that have people out on mobile phones and not behind their desks, and that's the majority of the companies today. A mobile and widespread workforce is an opportunity to save a good deal of money for training because travel costs are reduced. Training not meeting needs. What training department can meet all the company needs these days? In e-learning is about extending access to training. Knowledge management. We talked a little bit about this earlier. It's about collecting and sharing corporate knowledge. It's a part of e-learning and vice versa. Get your people to see the connection. New products. Many companies introduce several new products per month. It may take weeks to train people on one new product, at which time there have been several more introduced. So e-learning can train people almost instantly. Highly regulated industries, that's a big one. Regulation compliance training is a good place to start. Large numbers of people have to get it and be regularly retested for certification. E-learning is definitely faster, better, and cheaper than training that requires travel. Salespeople. Salespeople need quick access to information because knowledge impacts their income. Moreover, they're highly mobile and computer literate. So if it works for them, they'll sell it. And really change. If your company is going through some significant change, anything from a merger to a new product line, maybe downsizing, you can leverage e-learning to support that change. Even a new ERP. Use your e-learning platform to go through it once, train it, tape it, put it online, and now you never have to do it again, unless, of course, it upgrades again, as we all know. So these are opportunities for e-learning. And, if your company, look around your company, and again, it's the culture that makes e-learning succeed. So your supportive factors for e-learning, a CEO who believes in the training and e-learning and what it brings and the increased productivity, decreased cost in printing and training. I mean, if he believes, and she will make it happen. Corporate change initiatives. You have corporate change going on. That's very supportive for an e-learning platform. A central training organization. If you have just a central training organization, you're bringing everyone in to train. Let's put it online and get it out to the world. A supportive IT department. That way you're not outsourcing everything. If there's people already in your IT department, of course, etrain360.com, we have IT people, but for the larger corporations, they like to deal with their own IT departments. Regulatory requirements, budget reductions, a geographically dispersed company. If you're in all over the globe, the e-learning is great for that. And having a strong network in place. If you don't have the internet, e-learning won't work, of course. Now, look around again at your company. Let's look at non-supportive factors. If you find any of these in your company, there's a little struggle of getting something like this implemented. So some of the non-supportive factors are a CEO who doesn't care or believe that e-learning will replace all training. It's not going to replace training. It is your training, but if you have specific training, that's what video is for. That is, you get face to face with that person, and you take things once and don't have to do it again. Just for a really quick example, we had a pharmaceutical company as a new BioT medical hormonal pellet, and they were actually bringing in once a month, because it's medical. They have to talk to doctors who ask a lot of specific questions. So it's a very technical thing, pharmaceutical sales. Well, they were bringing in their new sales reps to Dallas, which is where eTrain360.com is. We're bringing them into Dallas, and once a month, they'd have between 20 and 40 people that they train. Well, they'd have to bring the same salespeople in 3 different times until they really got it and started selling things. Well, so we decided, why do this over and over and over and over? So not only that, let's put it on eLearning. So if they need a refresher course about the surgery or anything like that, then then they would have an easy way to talk to them and get them out there selling more. And so we videotaped the entire conference, and within 2 months it was implemented throughout their company, and their sales increased, triply increased, by 300%. And their training, of course, dramatically decreased. Now they just are solely online training, and it's eliminated that need to get a conference room, fly people in, get their hotels. It's a big ordeal, as you guys know, training events. So it definitely works. And their company, they only had like 6 people in the company when they started, and we do this. And now BioT is worldwide. So of course our eLearning has expanded, but only the people have expanded. The information stayed the same. So we're not having to reinvent the wheel every month. We have the wheel, and it turns, and it turns very nicely. So the learners themselves, perhaps, I mean, there's been some companies that we've worked with that very skeptical. What we've found, though, is that they're not really readily accessible with the internet and computers. So it was more about the fear of technology. And so we were able to do a couple workshops with them and training and show them what was going on. But, you know, we found that non-supportive factors would be one. You know, the learners, who are you trying to train? Are they on the internet? And that's another great point. You know, when you create an e-learning platform, who are your people? I mean, what are they doing? What are they using? How do they normally get information? And then you skew the system to create, you know, multiple ways to interact with you through one portal. And that's what the great thing about technology, we can now do that. Trainers who feel their jobs are threatened, or HR, we've had that before too. Nobody wants to take your job. It's just that we're trying from a corporate perspective to reduce cost, and trainers still are needed because they need to train. They need to create the e-learning. I relocated some trainers to actually be, they gather information to train. And so they're almost like training researchers. And so there's definitely places in the company for trainers, and they'll always be needed. Managers whose control may be threatened, same kind of thing. Conservative HR people who are nervous about anything new, kind of, it goes hand in hand with the learners and not knowing technology. But believe me, if you're in human resources and you implement something that increases productivity, decreases cost, makes people happier, the information's readily available, you will be the rock star. So that's why you hire people like eTrain360. We create the platform for you, work with you on the design, and then you look like the rock star. You didn't have the headache. So don't be nervous about anything new or new technology. It's needed. That's the way the world is going, and you hire the experts who know what they're doing, so you don't have to worry about it. And a lack of a long-term view of cost savings. Again, huge cost savings in e-learning. Not only from training, but printing. We've eliminated books and books and books of training materials. I mean, if you can put all that online and you don't have to print it over and over and over. We have global companies that are, printing from English to Chinese to African to Swahili to Mexican to Spanish to French. And I mean, it's saving so much money because, as you guys know, printing is so expensive, and it's eco-friendly too. So that's cool. All right, so that's the non-supportive factors. Now, my final thoughts today. You know, technology again has changed. It's changed the way we learn. And if you can take away three things, this is what three things I hope you can leave with today around e-learning. Technology's changed the way we learn. There's more. People are on their phones, on their computers, on their on any kind of technology platform. Social media is huge. It's more than technology. It's a company culture. So really, take a look at your culture and your company, and where does e-learning fit in, if it does. And if it does, what is your culture? Is it accepting? Does it have reward systems for your employees? Are you set up for a dynamic, interactive e-learning platform? And remember, it's not only about the company, but it affects the customer, employees, productivity, and the bottom line. Most people look at e-learning as, oh, I need to train my employees. What's huge is e-learning has made a huge impact on affecting the customer as well. We're using blogging, we're using tweeting and social media to get the word out about our companies. But again, you have to be trained on what is that company culture? What do you want to say in there? Is your mission statement very clear? So when your employees are talking to your customers, are they getting the same message? And again, e-learning can help with that. It standardizes the company message. How many people honestly get out your handbook, your employee handbook? Who are we? What do we do? What is my pitch? Maybe 1, 5, 10, maybe % of the company does that. And everyone needs to know the mission statement of your company, the plan for projections, where are we headed, what are our core values. All of that needs to be instilled in your employees, and you can do that throughout your e-learning experience with them. And the more they know it, the more they can articulate it and communicate it to your customers, which again is just increases the bottom line. And that is actually your ultimate goal, right, with your companies. So thank you for joining me today for Vision, Velocity, and Value Distant Learning Presentation. To find out more about us, you can visit www.etrain360.com. And I am going to open it up for a few questions. All right, we have here, Mandy, is e-learning safe for companies? Great question. Oh my goodness, yes. We lock everything down. Even our PDFs are locked. And I get that question a lot with PDFs because nobody wants them to print them and reproduce them. E-learning is locked also at the username and password. So we are able to be very specific on who accesses what time, how many times. I mean, we can even lock it down to the IP address. So meaning if you give a username and password to an employee and they access it from their laptop at home, they could not then go and give it to their friend and use their laptop because they only have a one usage license. And most companies will give their employees 2 licenses, one for their cell phone and one for their laptop, or one for their company computer and one for their laptop at home. So most companies do have 2, but we lock it down through certification. We lock it down through the username and password, the IP usage, and then you have reporting tools back there that'll tell you who accessed it, how long. It's another great thing that I didn't cover, but reporting is awesome for companies because you can actually run a report to know who finished what, if they finished or not, did they get a certificate, did they not. You know, so the reporting there is unbelievable. And it'll also tell you if someone shared their username and password. So yes, it is safe for every company. Cynthia, my friends and I are planning to create a startup BPO company. Do you think e-learning will benefit our training team? Interesting. So I believe I've started many startups with e-learning, and that is the smart way to think. So congratulations, Cynthia. But that's very smart. So if you have a training team, you're all on the same page. As you grow, I always say with startups, create it now. It's much easier to create it now than later. And so if you can implement your e-learning now and grow it, scale it with your company, it's an amazing tool. So I'm not exactly sure if you want to write, you know, what your company is doing and who they're reaching. I can be a little bit more specific for you, but that's my thought on it. And the training team then can use it to train. So it's a beautiful thing. Is e-learning a Zell or Zai? Zell is learning a substitute of classroom education. It could be a mixture. It depends again on the company. Some companies have both, and we have a lot of clients that do hybrid. And what hybrid is you do the online learning, and in between your online learning, you will actually have a class instructed. So real estate companies do this a lot. You do the online training during the week, and on the weekends you come to classroom training. You go home, you have homework, you do your online training, you come back in the weekends and for classroom training. So that's a hybrid class. That's hybrid training. So it doesn't replace classroom training. Again, it's the goals of the company. Some companies need to touch and feel, you know, their employees, and not literally, of course, but they, you know, they need them in a classroom setting. And some employees need that classroom setting for the and retention. Excuse me. So it goes back to that question of, you know, what is it and how is it your employees are learning? How are they getting information? Are they savvy on the internet? If they're not, does that take a training session? Again, it goes back to that planning stage of creating an e-learning platform. And then you can create it to how everyone needs to hear it, see it, and feel it. Excuse me. I have allergies today. We're in Dallas, Texas, and it's starting to get cooler, so something's blowing in. Excuse me. Let's see. You can also make your questions open. Okay. So I think I addressed the questions that are right there, but I'm thinking, oh no, there's a few more. So how do you implement e-learning? Well, that's a loaded question. But to implement e-learning is kind of a few stages. One, you have to figure out, you know, what is it that you want to create? What is it that you're doing? Oh, these are the questions you ask yourself. What is my company doing over and over and over and over again? How can I stop the repetitiveness? What are my clients needing? What are my employees needing that I'm not providing? What are my customers needing that we're not providing? Now we could simply provide. I mean, that again, that's what if you look at what you're doing already, videotape it, get it online. And if you're doing it over and over and over again, e-learning is no-brainer question. You have to implement it. It'll save you time, money. But that's really where you want to start is, you know, what are my main needs right now? What do I need to train in? What am I doing over and over again? And what can I prevent from doing over and over again? I mean, with e-training, we also do e-learning. We also do membership sites. So, you know, it's all automated. We're all about automation. So you're not getting a lot of questions. So that's kind of where you start. Let me see. I also have Okay, Zell, I think there should be a balance between e-learning and the classroom. I'm an e-learning and development specialist, and since I implemented the e-learning in our company, a lot of employees skip the classroom training. I think you're exactly right, Zell. There are times when classroom training is needed, and my husband is one of them. And the reason I brought up real estate is because he's a news director here in Dallas, Channel 8, and he is just tired of his work. He's been there 22 years, and he's getting his real estate license. Well, that's how he. At first, we're like, "Oh, good, it's online." And he goes, "I can't learn online. I'm trying, but I'd rather be in a classroom." And because he's not one that's on technology a lot, so I asked him, if I showed you how to use a classroom, do you think you could do the training during the week and go there during the weekend for the classroom training? He said, "Oh, that'd be perfect." So there is a mixture. I mean, there definitely is a good balance. And so what I would say to you, Zell, is if you're already in a company as a learning and development specialist, and you're saying a lot of employees are skipping the classroom training, there is a way that maybe you could, I look at that e-learning just like I would classroom training. When I go to classroom training, I say, okay, what here can we replicate that can be replicated and make it easier for everyone? I'd say kind of opposite for you. I would look at the e-learning training and say, what here is missing that they need in the classroom training? And that would be a good approach if you're really wanting to get more people in the classroom, because there are things that would be missed on e-learning. And so if I were you, I'd research a little bit about it. And I'm sure you already know because you probably helped develop it, Zell. But if you look in there, where are the holes? Where is that classroom training needed? Now you create kind of a project plan, if you will, or a proposal, and take it to the management team. If you are a manager, take it into the board team and just say, here, I love our e-learning. Never start negative, of course, but I love our e-learning. And I think it's great. However, I've noticed this, and this, and I feel like we could better create a better program if they were in the classroom. And these are my ideas. So, that would be one approach that I would take because that's really where the classroom is going to come in. There are certain things in your company you just can't teach online. Find out what those things are, research a little bit, and then bring a proposal to someone that will approve it, and that way you'll have more classroom training as well. Okay. All right, I've got Selma. I'm a trainer. Should I be worried that I may not be needed anymore? It's a good question. I mean, that was in our presentation. No. As a trainer, we've worked with a lot of trainers and companies, and if a company is really big, they will not let go of their trainer. If it's a medium size, I have never worked with a large corporation, never, and that has fired or let go of their trainer after we've implemented e-learning. Honestly, you're still, just think about all the training that you're doing now. They still need you to train. Now it's just a different format. So don't be scared of the technology. Make yourself indispensable. And so when the e-training team comes in there, if you're implementing e-learning, then you want to be hand in hand with them because you are the trainer. They need you. That's, and you still want to get together. You still have to train. It may not be every weekend, but you still need to refine and you still need to have the training. They still need someone to talk to. That's another great thing. Maybe while I'm talking, I'm thinking there's another company we worked with. You suggest that hybrid model that we talked about. And so not everything's online. You would be the person that they would actually have discussions with. You'd be over the forum. You'd be talking to the students, but it's online. It's not in person. And so, find that little niche in there and, make yourself indispensable. You are the trainer. You should not, and you shouldn't lose your job at all. And if you take that approach of, I can make myself indispensable, who are they going to talk to ask questions? Who are they going to, have them think about a hybrid model? And your employees, I know, will appreciate that, because as they're going through e-learning, they still want someone to talk to. And that would be you. Okay, Selma? All right. I think that's all the questions for now. I'm going to sit here for a couple more minutes. I'll tell you more about eTrain 360, and if you have any more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box, because I'd love to hear them and answer to the best of my ability. But eTrain 360, we've been around for a very long time, and we've been doing, implementing e-training platforms for everywhere from smaller companies to larger companies. A little bit about myself also. I also own ax2technology.com, ACTS number 2 technology.com. We help churches and missionaries. And so that's kind of my passion work. eTrain 360, we work with corporations, companies, small startups, really all the gamut of people who need e-learning. But I also noticed a need in the churches and missionaries are risking their lives going across the countries and have big printing issues. And so we cater to a lot of big ministries here in the United States, globally, throughout the world. Again, we're in China, Africa. And so my passion is to help people realize their potential online and create things that help others and lower costs. So it's really a win-win-win for everyone. So I'd love for y'all to go check out my eTrain360.com site. And we have a team here that would be more than happy to help you. I personally would love to talk to you and hear from you. And that's my phone number there. It's actually my private line for everyone that's on this call. And so just give me a call, visit our website. We would love to hear from you and work with you. Check out our blogs. We have a really neat e-learning report. It's for this year, and it talks about all the latest, greatest technologies and all kinds of great stuff. So please feel free to download that. It's free. And thank you so much for being on the webinar today, and I enjoyed our time together.